First contact with the whispers. Dr. Maya Chen stared at the holographic display, watching the planet Nix rotate slowly before her eyes. Its surface was mostly covered in deep blue oceans with scattered landmasses that resembled jagged teeth. According to their scans, it shouldn't have been inhabited, not by anything sentient, at least. Yet the horizon's sensors had detected energy signatures that defied explanation, faint rhythmic pulses that seemed to emanate from what appeared to be ruins on the largest continent. "Still think we should turn back?" Captain Rice asked, his weathered face betraying a hint of excitement despite his cautious tone. Maya shook her head. "This is exactly why we're out here, Captain. First contact is my specialty. And those energy signatures," she pointed to the pulsing data stream on her tablet. "They're not random. There's a pattern there, almost like language." The captain nodded. "The Galactic Conclave said this sector was empty. They're not going to be happy about this. The Conclave isn't happy about much these days, especially when it comes to humans," Maya replied with a half-smile. "They've been looking down on us since we joined the galactic community 50 years ago. We're still the new kids on the block." Earth had broken into interstellar travel only 60 years prior, and the older species of the Conclave, the Xorians with their crystalline bodies, the gaseous Rel, and the insectoid Ther, had treated humans with dismissive condescension from the start. Humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too primitive. The Conclave begrudgingly allowed Earth to join, but constantly restricted human expansion and exploration. The Horizon's mission was supposed to be a routine survey of an unremarkable solar system. Finding an uncharted planet with mysterious energy signatures wasn't part of the plan. "Landing party prep in 30 minutes, Rise announced over the ship's comm. "Dr. Chen, as first contact specialist, you'll lead the scientific team. Lieutenant Quan will handle security." Maya felt a flutter of excitement as she gathered her equipment. This was her moment. The discovery that could prove humans weren't just the galactic newcomers to be tolerated. The Conclave's star charts had missed this. Their vaunted 1,000-year knowledge had gaps, and humans had found one. The shuttle descent was rough, buffeted by Nix's dense atmosphere. When they finally broke through the cloud cover, Maya gasped. The landscape below wasn't just dotted with ruins, it was dominated by them. Massive structures of an unknown black material stretched across the horizon, some half submerged in the planet's oceans, others reaching impossibly high into the sky. "Those aren't ruins," Lieutenant Quan whispered. "They're too perfect." She was right. Despite clearly being ancient, the structures showed no signs of decay. They gleamed in the pale light of Nix's distant sun, surfaces unmarred by time. When they landed in a clearing surrounded by towering obelisks, Maya was the first to exit the shuttle. The air was breathable but strange, heavy with a vibration that seemed to hum against her skin. "It's like the air is singing," she murmured, adjusting her translator device. The team spread out cautiously, scanning and documenting. The black material of the structures defied analysis. Their instruments simply returned error messages. "Dr. Chen," called one of her assistants, Dr. Puddle. "There's movement over here." Maya hurried over, heart pounding. In the shadow of one of the obelisks stood a figure, humanoid but clearly not human. Its body seemed to shimmer with an inner light, skin translucent like living glass. Where a face should be, there was only a swirling pattern of luminescence. Maya approached slowly, hands raised in the universal gesture of peace. "Hello," she said, knowing her translator would attempt to convert her greeting into any known language. The being tilted what passed for its head. Then, instead of speaking, it emitted a series of melodic tones that made the air around them vibrate. Maya's translator sputtered and died with a small shower of sparks. "It's okay," she said to her team, removing the useless device. "This is why we train." She listened carefully to the tones, trying to discern a pattern. After a few moments, she attempted to mimic the simplest sequence, a 3-note progression that seemed to repeat. The beam went completely still, Then, to everyone's shock, it began to glow brighter, the luminescence spreading through its body like wildfire. More figures emerged from behind the structures, dozens of them, all glowing with the same inner light. Lumina, Maya whispered, naming them in that moment. They're called Lumina. How do you know that? Quan asked, her hand hovering near her weapon. Maya blinked, confused. I don't know. The word just came to me. The first Lumina approached Maya and extended what seemed to be a hand, a delicate appendage that ended in long, luminescent fingers. In its palm rested a small crystal that pulsed with the same rhythm as the being's body. Instinctively, Maya reached out. The moment her fingers touched the crystal, a jolt of energy ran through her body. Images flooded her mind, stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, and beings of pure light constructing the very structures that surrounded them. The architects, she gasped, the words tumbling from her lips unbidden. They built this place. These are their, she struggled for the right word, their children, their legacy. The lumina surrounding them began to hum in unison, creating a harmonious chord that made the very ground beneath their feet vibrate. The crystal in Maya's hand pulsed brighter, and the black structures responded, lines of light appearing along their surfaces in intricate patterns. They're not just buildings, she realized aloud. They're instruments. This entire planet is an instrument. For the next 3 days, Maya and her team worked tirelessly, documenting everything they could about the lumina and the structures. Through a combination of the crystals, which she discovered were communication devices, and her inexplicable ability to understand certain concepts, Maya began to piece together the history of Nyx. The architects had been an ancient race, masters of sound and light, who had built wonders across the galaxy before disappearing millennia ago. The Lumina were their creations, left behind to maintain the great works until the architects returned, or until their rightful heirs appeared. On the 4th day, as Maya was examining a wall covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them, she felt something strange, a vibration deep in her chest, as if her very bones were humming in response to the wall. Without thinking, she placed her palm against the symbols. The wall lit up, lines of light spreading outward from her hand. A doorway appeared where there had been only solid material moments before, revealing a chamber within. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a large crystal unlike any they had seen so far, this one pulsing with a deep reddish light. This shouldn't be possible, Dr. Paddle said, scanning the doorway. According to these readings, this passage didn't exist until you touched it, Dr. Chen. Maya stepped into the chamber, drawn to the crystal. The moment she entered, the walls came alive with moving images, star maps, diagrams, and what appeared to be musical notations unlike any human composition. It's a library, she breathed, a repository of knowledge. When she approached the central crystal, it began to pulse more rapidly. Maya reached out, but before her fingers could make contact, a voice spoke directly into her mind, not in words, but in musical phrases that somehow translated into meaning. Blood of the architects. The resonance returns. Maya stumbled backward, shocked. Did anyone else hear that? The confused expressions of her team answered her question. Before she could explain, the communication device on Lieutenant Quan's belt crackled to life. Landing party, this is Captain Reyes. We've got company. 3 conclave vessels just entered orbit. They're demanding to know what we're doing here. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Tell them we've made first contact with a previously unknown species. We're following standard protocols. I did. They're insisting this planet is under conclave protection. They've ordered us to cease all operations and prepare for their arrival. That doesn't make sense, Maya said. If they knew about Nyx, why isn't it on their charts? Why would they hide an entire inhabited planet? The answer came not from the captain, but from the crystal on the pedestal, which flared with sudden intensity. They fear what sleeps here. They fear the song that can reawaken the stars. Images flashed through Maya's mind. The conclave species, younger and less advanced, bowing before beings of light. The architects, teaching and guiding. Then later, conflict, betrayal. The architects, not extinct but retreating, seeding their essence across the galaxy, waiting for the right vessels to return. And somehow, impossibly, Maya saw her own DNA, a specific sequence glowing with the same light as the architects' bodies. They knew, she whispered. They've always known about this place. They've been hiding it. 6 hours later, a conclave delegation landed on Nyx. 3 representatives, 1 Saurian, 1 Vrel contained in a floating environmental suit, and 1 Ther, approached the human camp with an escort of armed peacekeepers. This is a restricted zone under Article 7 of the Galactic Accords, the Saurian announced, its crystalline body reflecting the strange light of Nyx. Your presence here is unauthorized and illegal. Captain Reyes, who had joined the landing party after the conclave's arrival, stepped forward. This planet does not appear on any conclave star charts provided to Earth. We discovered it through independent exploration, which is our right as members. The Vrel's environmental suit emitted a series of colored gases that its translator converted to speech. This sector has been quarantined for reasons beyond human understanding. You will depart immediately. Maya stepped forward. We've made contact with the indigenous species, under conclave law that gives us the right to establish diplomatic relations. The Ther's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Humans, always so eager to rush into situations beyond their comprehension. What you found here is not what you think. We know about the architects, Maya said boldly. We know the Lumina are their creations. What we don't know is why the conclave would hide an entire civilization. The 3 representatives exchanged glances. The structures on this planet are not habitations or monuments, the Saurian said finally. They are weapons. Dangerous technology left by a race that nearly destroyed the galaxy before their extinction. Maya felt the crystal in her pocket, the one the first Lumina had given her, grow warm. In her mind, she heard a faint melody, a contradiction. Not weapons. Keys. They are the keys to the doors between stars. You're lying, she said, the certainty in her voice surprising even her. The architects weren't destroyers. And they're not extinct. The Ther stepped closer, compound eyes fixed on Maya with unsettling intensity. What have you done, human? What have you touched? Before she could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. Around them, the black structures began to pulse with light, patterns flowing across their surfaces in accelerating rhythms. The Lumina emerged from their hiding places, hundreds of them now, their bodies glowing brighter than ever. And deep within Maya's chest, a song began to form, notes and rhythms she had never learned but somehow knew by heart. It rose within her, demanding release. Get away from her, the Vrel screeched, its environmental suit flashing warning colors. But it was too late. The first notes escaped Maya's lips. Not words but pure sound, a melody that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality. The structures responded, their light intensifying, the patterns flowing faster. And as the song grew stronger, Maya felt something awakening inside her. A connection to this place, to the Lumina, to the ancient race that had built wonders across the stars. In that moment, she understood what the conclave truly feared. Not weapons or destruction, but change. The return of the architects would upset the balance of power they had maintained for centuries. The song built to a crescendo, and Maya felt the crystal in her pocket become almost too hot to touch. But she couldn't stop singing, couldn't stem the tide of music that poured from her very soul. The conclave representatives backed away, fear evident in their alien features. What is happening? Captain Rice demanded. The Saurian's crystalline form vibrated with tension. She's activating the beacon. She's calling to the others. Others? Rides asked. Other sites. Other worlds. The network was never fully deactivated, merely dormant. The Saurian turned to its companions. We must report this immediately. The protocol must be initiated. As they retreated toward their ship, Maya finally managed to stop singing, the melody fading from her lips but continuing to echo in the structures around them. "Dr. Chen," Quan said carefully. "Your eyes." Maya caught her reflection in the polished surface of a nearby scanner. Her eyes were glowing with the same inner light as the lumina, pulses of luminescence circulating through her irises. The central crystal in the hidden chamber was now blazing with light, projected images filling the air above it, star maps with pulsing points of light appearing across the galaxy. "They're waking up," Maya whispered, a mixture of awe and fear in her voice. "All of them. And the conclave can't stop it this time." Captain Rise looked from the retreating conclave members to Maya and back again. "What have we stumbled into, Doctor?" Maya touched the crystal in her pocket, feeling its resonance with her altered body. "The beginning," she said. "The beginning of everything. The awakening of the stars." Captain Rise watched as the conclave representatives boarded their shuttle, urgency evident in their movements. The moment they were gone, he turned to Maya, who stood transfixed by the pulsing light emanating from the hidden chamber. "You have exactly 5 minutes to explain what's happening," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Then I need to decide whether to evacuate this planet or prepare for a diplomatic incident." Maya tore her gaze away from the light, the luminescence in her eyes dimming slightly. "Captain, the architects, they weren't just another alien species. They were caretakers, guides. They built this network across the galaxy thousands of years ago, linking worlds through what they called the resonance. The energy signatures we detected," Dr. Patel realized. Maya nodded. The conclave species were among their students. The architects taught them, helped them evolve, showed them the stars. Her fingers closed around the crystal in her pocket. But something happened. A betrayal. The conclave species rose up against their teachers, drove them away, or thought they did. And these lumina, Rise gestured to the glowing beings who had gathered around them, humming softly. "Guardians, left behind to maintain the network until..." She hesitated. "Until what, Doctor?" "Until someone with the right genetic resonance came along." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Someone who could reactivate the network, restart the resonance." "Someone like you," Lieutenant Quan said, her hand still resting near her weapon. Maya nodded slowly. The architects didn't just retreat. They seeded themselves, their genetic material, their essence spread across countless worlds, including, apparently, Earth, waiting to be reborn in new forms. Reyes' communicator crackled. "Captain, this is the horizon. The conclave vessels are taking up attack positions. They're charging weapons." The ground beneath them trembled again, stronger this time. The black structures pulsed with increasing intensity, and a low hum filled the air, resonating with something deep inside Maya's chest. "They're afraid," she said, understanding washing over her. The conclave built their power on the remnants of architect technology, technology they never fully understood. If the network reactivates, if the architects return, then the galactic balance of power shifts, Rise finished. And humanity somehow factors into that equation. Maya felt a pull toward the central chamber, where the large crystal continued to pulse. "I need to go back in there. There's more to learn, more to understand." "We might not have time," Quan warned. "If those ships open fire..." "They won't," Maya said with unexpected certainty. "They can't risk damaging the structures. And they know what I've started can't be stopped by simply killing me. The signal is already spreading." Inside the chamber, the walls now displayed what looked like a cascading sequence of activations, points of light appearing across the star map, each triggering others in a chain reaction spreading throughout the galaxy. The central crystal pulsed in time with Maya's heartbeat. When she approached it this time, she didn't hesitate. She placed both hands on its surface. The connection was instant and overwhelming, knowledge pouring into her mind like a flood breaking through a dam. Languages, histories, sciences beyond human understanding. The rise of the architects, their peaceful exploration of the galaxy, their discovery and nurturing of younger species, their creation of the resonance network, allowing instantaneous travel and communication across vast distances. And then the betrayal. The conclave races, younger then, but ambitious, had coveted the architects' technology, their power, their seeming immortality. They hadn't understood that the architects' abilities came not from technology alone, but from their fundamental connection to the fabric of reality through sound and light. The uprising had been swift and violent. Unable to comprehend killing even in self-defense, the architects had retreated, but not before implementing their contingency, seeding their genetic material across thousands of worlds, encoding their knowledge in crystals that would activate only in the presence of their descendants. Humanity, it seemed, had been one of those seeded worlds. And Maya, through some quirk of genetic recombination over millennia, carried enough of the architect resonance to activate the network. When she finally pulled her hands away from the crystal, she found her team staring at her in shock. "Your skin," Dr. Patel whispered. Maya looked down at her hands. Patterns of light moved beneath her skin, similar to the luminescence of the lumina, but more structured, more complex. She could feel the change spreading through her body, not consuming her humanity but enhancing it, adding layers of perception and understanding. "I know what we need to do," she said, her voice now carrying a subtle harmonic quality. "The Conclave has been using scavenged architect technology to maintain their dominance, but they've never understood its true purpose. The network wasn't built for power. It was built for connection, for sharing knowledge across the stars." "Dr. Chen," Captain Rice said cautiously, "what exactly is happening to you?" "I'm not being replaced, Captain. I'm being augmented. The architect genes that have been dormant in my DNA are awakening." She smiled reassuringly. "I'm still Maya Chen. I'm just more than I was before." The communicator crackled again. "Captain, the Conclave ships are moving into low orbit. They're deploying what looks like a dampening field. Our systems are starting to fail." Maya closed her eyes, feeling the vibrations around her. "They're trying to suppress the resonance, to stop the activation from spreading further. But it's too late." She stepped toward the central crystal again, placed her palms on its surface, and began to sing. This time, the melody was deliberate, controlled, rising and falling in complex patterns that made the air itself shimmer with visible waves of sound. The structures around them responded, their black surfaces becoming translucent, revealing intricate machinery within, not mechanical but crystalline, organic, alive in some fundamental way. Outside the chamber, the lumina gathered in concentric circles, their bodies pulsing in harmony with Maya's song. The ground trembled, not with destruction but with awakening energy. High above, the dampening field deployed by the Conclave ships wavered and collapsed, overwhelmed by the rising tide of the resonance. In that moment, Maya understood what needed to be done. Still singing, she reached into her pocket and withdrew the small crystal given to her by the first lumina. She held it up, watching as it began to absorb the light from the central crystal, becoming a perfect miniature replica of the larger stone. Her song reached a crescendo, and the small crystal shot upward, passing effortlessly through the ceiling of the chamber, through the structure above, and into the sky, moving faster and faster until it disappeared from sight. "What did you just do?" Quan asked, her voice hushed with awe. Maya lowered her hands, the song fading from her lips but continuing to echo through the structures. "I sent a message, an invitation." "To whom?" "To everyone," Maya said. "Every world where the architects left their legacy. Every species that has forgotten the true history of this galaxy." She turned to Captain Reyes. "Including Earth." 3 hours later, the situation had escalated beyond anything they could have imagined. The horizon reported that dozens of Conclave warships had entered the system, forming a blockade around Nyx. But they weren't the only ones responding to the activation of the network. Ships of unknown design had begun appearing at the edge of the system. vessels that seemed to be composed of the same black material as the structures on Nyx, gliding through space without visible propulsion. The caretakers, Maya explained, observing the sensor readings. Other guardian species, like the Lumina, from other architect sites across the galaxy. They're coming to protect the network now that it's reactivating. The Conclave forces held their positions but did not attack. They seemed to be waiting, perhaps for reinforcements, perhaps for orders from their leadership. On the surface of Nyx, more changes were occurring. The black structures had begun to reconfigure themselves, some sinking into the ground, others rising higher, all shifting into new formations that Maya somehow recognized as preparation. Preparation for what? Rise asked when she explained this. For the return, she said simply. Inside the central chamber, the crystal had now expanded, growing to nearly twice its original size. The images it projected had changed as well, no longer showing just the activation of the network, but also data streams, information flowing between the active sites, knowledge being shared, histories being compared. And Maya was changing too. The light beneath her skin had stabilized into intricate patterns that shifted only when she focused her thoughts. Her senses had expanded beyond normal human perception. She could see wavelengths of light previously invisible, hear sounds previously inaudible, feel vibrations that existed at the quantum level. I need to show you something, she told her team, leading them deeper into the structure, to passages that had opened only after the activation sequence began. They entered what appeared to be a vast amphitheater, its walls curving upward to form a dome. At its center stood a dais, and upon it, a device that resembled a musical instrument, a series of crystalline rods arranged in concentric circles. This is the heart of the resonance on this world, Maya explained. From here, the architects once communicated with all their outposts across the galaxy, and from here, we can speak to the Conclave, not as supplicants, but as equals. She approached the instrument, her fingers hovering above the crystal rods. Captain, I need your authorization. What I'm about to do will change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Reyes studied her for a long moment. The Conclave has never treated us as equals. They've restricted our expansion, limited our access to advanced technology, kept us contained. If what you're saying is true, if this network, this legacy, is partly ours by right of our genetics, then I see no reason not to claim it. He nodded. You have my authorization, Dr. Chen. Maya placed her hands on the crystalline rods. They responded instantly, glowing with inner light. A beam of energy shot upward from the center of the instrument, through the dome above, and into the sky. Moments later, a holographic projection filled the amphitheater. Faces of the Conclave leadership, their expressions ranging from anger to fear to grudging respect. Humans, the Exorian High Commissioner spoke first, its crystalline form vibrating with tension. You have no idea what forces you are meddling with. On the contrary, Maya replied, her voice carrying the subtle harmonics of the architects. We understand exactly what this is. The question is, why did you hide it from us? Why keep the truth of the architects from Earth when you discovered our genetic connection to them? Avril Counselor's environmental suit flashed patterns of agitation. The architect legacy is dangerous. Their powers too vast, their philosophy too incompatible with modern galactic governance. You mean with the Conclave's dominance, Maya countered. You've built your power structure on stolen technology, on fragments of understanding gleaned from the ruins you couldn't destroy. You feared the architects might return, might reclaim what was theirs, so you hid the truth. We protected the galaxy, insisted a third general, mandibles clicking rapidly. The architects would have bound all species to their network, made us all dependent on their technologies, their ways of thinking. We chose independence. Is that what you tell yourselves? Maya's fingers moved across. Well, Captain Reyes said after a moment, I think that qualifies as first contact done right. Congratulations, Dr. Chen. You've just rewritten humanity's future in the galaxy. Maya looked down at her hands, at the patterns of light flowing beneath her skin. Not just humanity's, everyone's. She looked around at her team. This is only the beginning. The network is still waking up. There's so much to learn, so much to understand. Lieutenant Quan holstered her weapon for the first time since the crisis began. So what happens now? Maya smiled, and for a moment, the light within her eyes blazed brighter. Now we sing the stars back to life. In the days that followed, ships from Earth arrived at Nyx, scientists and diplomats eager to understand the discovery that had upended the galactic status quo. The Conclave, true to their word, withdrew their military forces, though observers remained to monitor the situation. The network continued to activate, points of light appearing across the galaxy as more architect sites awakened from their millennia of slumber. With each activation came new knowledge, new understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it. And at the center of it all was Maya, neither fully human nor fully architect, but something new, a bridge between past and future, between species separated by vast gulfs of space and understanding. Standing before the crystal instrument in the amphitheater, surrounded by representatives from Earth and a dozen other worlds where the architect legacy had been discovered, she began to sing. The melody rose and fell, complex harmonies building upon each other, creating patterns of sound that became patterns of light, patterns of energy. The black structures of Nyx responded, their surfaces rippling like water, revealing the true nature of the architect technology. Not machines but living systems, responsive to thought and sound and light, extensions of consciousness itself. They mocked us, Maya said when her song concluded. The Conclave, with their ancient civilizations and their technological head start, they laughed at humans, at our emotions, our unpredictability, our drive to explore even when told not to. They thought we were primitive, unworthy of the greater galactic community. She smiled, the light within her pulsing gently. They didn't realize those very qualities made us perfect heirs to the architect legacy. The architects valued creativity, empathy, curiosity, the very traits the Conclave dismissed as weaknesses. They seated themselves in us not despite our humanity, but because of it. The crystal instrument pulsed once, projecting a star map that filled the amphitheater. Thousands of worlds connected by lines of light, the network spreading, growing, evolving. The architects didn't die, Maya said, her voice carrying the subtle harmonics that marked her transformation. They became us, all of us. And now, together, we sang their songs back to the stars. She placed her hands on the crystal rods again, and a new melody began, not just from her, but from the instruments on all the connected worlds, a symphony spanning the galaxy, reawakening memories long forgotten and possibilities never imagined. The song of the architects, returning at last to a galaxy that had missed their music without ever knowing what it had lost. And humanity, once dismissed and mocked, now stood at the center of this great awakening, their voices joining a chorus that would reshape the stars themselves.